Yeah, I guess what I was trying to highlight was how, and just like Matt was pointing out, no real Christian, I mean, outside of some genocidal war in Africa or what have you, has really gone through persecutions like that. But yet, that seems to be a motif that they really like to grasp onto, especially when
because it works.
They perceive some threat from evolutionary biologists, or they can't congregate in a public school building after school hours, to have a meeting, and so they're very quick to sort of trump up and play up these slight inconveniences,
right? Because it works. It works.
Really,
you can play the victim,
yeah,
and you can lie through your teeth while doing it. Oh, you guys are persecuting us. You took prayer to school. No, nobody took prayer to school. What they took was mandatory government-led prayer to school. Your kid can still pray in school. Your kid can still take a Bible to school. Your kids can still join the Youth for Christ movement. Your kid can still do whatever they want in school, as long as they're not doing it when they're supposed to be studying, and as long as they're not proselytizing to others on behalf of the school, as long as they're not going over the speaker and doing morning prayers. That's what was removed. And they'll lie and cry foul all day long. Because it works. It's easy to play the victim.
And yet, can turn on a dime and, condemn thousands of people for their sexual orientation, and
right, because that stuff's wrong,
and not seem to think. And not seem to think twice about it.
And I'm sure the persecution card is also very effective when you're doing the business of religion, which is fundraising.
Yeah.
Well, as soon as this, if it's just some social issue that's happening over there, that's like, abstract and at a distance, it's a lot harder to get people to open up their wallets than when you tell them, oh, and you personally, as one of us Christians, your rights are being trounced, and that's why we need your money. It's not to stop them, but to defend you.
The other reason that
that's a lot more appealing.
The other reason that they don't think twice about this at all is because they have this idea that what they're talking about is just wrong. It's just obviously wrong. Why would they think twice about it? To them, homosexuality is a sin, no different from being a pedophile, being a rapist, being a murderer. And some of them are honest enough to actually say that. Not all of them. The rest of them will say, well, okay, it's maybe not as bad, or but it's worse than lying, but not as. Who cares about any of that? This is something that's wrong, and that's why they don't think twice. It's not a rights issue for them. If you were to ask them, they would say, no, you don't have a right to do that. We're not violating your rights. We are, attempting to impose God's law, which will make the whole world better, despite the fact that we already know that it doesn't. Whether or not it's God's law or not, it doesn't make the world better. If there's anything to learn about this God character, is whether or not he exists, he's been a miserable failure.
Yeah. Well, that's a whole other conversation for another day. But I just thought that was interesting, and kind of wanted to see your guys' take on it. And plus the idea, I guess, Christians crying foul, or I guess any religious group for that matter, is the martyr is a real accessible idea, and there are so many saints that have been martyred for their beliefs, and I think that's something that they can establish and call upon to persuade or bend people to do whatever. But
well, thanks a lot, Josh. I appreciate the call.
Thank you. Have a good one.
As a reminder, after the show's over, we get together and go to dinner at Threadgill's at 301 West Riverside Drive. Any atheist or atheist-friendly person is welcome to join us. We'll be going on to other calls here in just a second. The example that I've used on that subject before is that if somebody's beating somebody else over the head with a stick and you come and take their stick away, you're not violating their rights. And that is very much the subject, what we're talking about.
Right. It doesn't matter if that guy with a stick believes that his invisible friend told him it was okay.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
That I guess would be my encapsulation of the separation of church and state, is that you know, your rights do not come from what you personally believe some supernatural thing gave you. Your rights come from the, you know, the passing of laws within our government.
Okay, we got Mike here in Austin. How you doing?
Hey, how's it going?
Good.
What I wanted to talk about was I frequently call and talk. I want to talk about the soul and my belief in the existence of it. Now, I just want to pose a question to you. If you believe that, or do you agree that energy doesn't come from nowhere and it doesn't go to nowhere?
Sorry, what?
You're breaking up very badly,
The
Mike.
energy itself does not come out of nowhere and then go back to nowhere.
Okay.
I mean, it's an ongoing thing, right? Energy.
Are you on a cell phone or a really bad?
Yeah, the roll is a bad. Come about now. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
We're missing like every other word, so it's hard to
I'm
tell what you're
sorry.
saying.
It's a horrible cell phone. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Do you agree that energy does not come from nowhere and does
Yes.
not go to nowhere? I mean, it comes
Yes.
from somewhere. I mean, it's an ongoing thing. It's a perpetual.
Okay, yes, and?
Well, okay, then if consciousness can be thought of as a form of energy.
How do you
because
get to
It
that?
can't. Consciousness is not a form of energy, it's a process.
Okay, how do you say that? I mean, how do you define that then? How do you explain that?
Well, you'd actually have to demonstrate that consciousness is a form of energy.
We know the energy that is involved in consciousness, right? There's chemical energy, there's electrical energy going on in the brain. Those are two known forms of energy, and neither of them is conscious in and of itself. Where consciousness comes from is the neurons of your brain involved in a process that uses chemistry and electricity, and that is consciousness. It's not the parts that make it up, it's the process that those parts are undergoing.
As an example that may be a bad one, think of the television that you're looking at. Yes, it uses energy to produce a picture on the screen, and ignoring the fact that the picture is made of light and therefore is made up of energy. The picture itself, the subject, the content, the thing that you perceive is not energy, and
Right.
it does not exist. It is the product of that. And if you think of it that way, it's when you turn off the TV, it's not like you've killed off a picture. You've stopped the energy that was producing a picture as a product of that.
Okay, all right, fair enough.
Okay.
That makes sense. I still believe there's a soul, but okay, that's very good. That's what I wanted
It's
to
an
hear.
appealing idea to lots of people for lots of reasons, especially, you know, if for example you've lost a loved one or something, the idea that they're somehow not gone can be very appealing. And I have no idea whether or not it's true. I have no reason to think it is, because nobody's come up with anything that would qualify as a soul. And everything that people want, every attribute that people want to give to a soul, we identify as part of the brain.
Yeah, I see. Well, the reason I was thinking about this, my mom died about 4 years ago, and I called in the show and talked to Russell. He gave me a really nice sanguine kind of a. He said, I guess the Jewish religions, or they try, or what people try to celebrate what she had, what she meant to us, and that's how she can live on. So I just thinking about it a lot, you know, the soul, and I just kind of have a hard time reconciling myself with the fact that we come from nowhere and we go nowhere. I mean, you know what I'm saying? I mean, when I say we, I just mean us.
It sucks, but you know,
camaraderie or
we are products of nature. We have no particular reason to expect special treatment in the first place. You know, everything else comes into existence and survives for a while and then is torn apart by natural forces. It happens to us too, and it sucks. If you don't like it, the thing to do is to support research into life extension, because because life is fundamentally an engineering problem.
Right. Well, just real quick, do y'all believe in? Oh, fuck, I lost my train of thought. I'm so sorry. Anyway, thanks a lot, guys.
All right, call back if you think of it.
Okay, thanks. Bye.
Yeah, we're at We've actually got a couple lines open. Russell's actually here. They tried to show him real quick, but there's not good lighting over in the darkened corner where we hide him when we don't let him up here.
But Russell says thanks.
The chat room screamed about me.
Wait.
Oh, there. You're
And
actually,
now Russell is talking out there in the
you're
darkness.
actually
Nobody
sitting
can
in the
hear him. He doesn't have
studio
a microphone.
and reading the stuff from the chat room.
I don't know why.
I don't either. You're a masochist. We got Tracy in Austin. How are you?
Okay.
Hi, Tracy.
Hi there.
Tracy in Austin, how are you?
Oh, yeah, you're going to want to turn that down so that you don't get the echo and the delay.
Sounds like he
Okie
did.
dokie, we'll do right now. Alrighty, yeah. Well, yeah, that's confusing me. That delay is confusing me. Well, my question is similar to that previous caller's. I was telling the guy there before I was talking to him about getting screened, and I was just saying that I'm not wanting to get into the religious dogma, the Christianity of Muslims, and how they've been persecuted and all that, because you guys make a very good point in what you're saying, and I watch from time to time. Okay, but my biggest question is, and I started having these questions, like that dude, my mother died some years back, and I was raised like so many of us were, Christian, or, you know what I'm saying, up to Jesus and all that stuff. And as soon as they started dying, and I mean basically my whole family just started pretty much dropping. And I found myself almost alone. So,
Right.
you know what happens normally. What happens, well, then if that happens, then that must not have been true, everything that they taught me, is what I'm thinking. Okay. So then it put me on this 10 to 12-year, I guess, excursion into life and death and life after death. And I read a lot of manuals about life after death, these people that die supposedly, and, you know, their souls and spirits go someplace else. I don't even want to touch on all that as much as what I want to ask you is one question. How do we, as atheists, if you're an atheist, if I'm an atheist, how do I personally get around the fact that creationists and atheists agree on one thing? And not too many people bring this up, but we all agree on one thing. The whole world agrees on one thing, the whole educated world, and that is, if you go back in time far enough, atheists, scientists, and creationists agree that at some point in time, before there was time, there was nothing. Everyone seems to be able to agree that there was absolutely nothing.
Actually,
And all I'm saying is this. How did we get here? Because if there's a Big Bang Theory, which is what I'm trying to believe in, which is what I kind of cater to, there's a Big Bang. I have no problem with that. But my question to you is, and I can't believe you don't have this question because you guys are intelligent people, and I know you are. I can hear how you talk.
We're ready to answer you, sir.
So I got to know in your mind that somewhere back there, you've got to wonder what made something go bang. And what I'm getting at is, and I'm sure you've heard this before, what I'm getting at is not a God, not an invisible friend or whatever. No. But some type of intelligent design seems to just not be able to leave my consciousness alone. I just don't see how we could come from nothing to nothing. Like the old song goes, the old black song back in the day, nothing from nothing leaves nothing.
Yeah.
And I'll stop right there, and I just want to know what you got to think about that.
You're engaged. It's an argument from ignorance, is what it is.
Is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
That's why you have this appeal for intelligent design. First of all, everybody in the world doesn't agree about this idea of nothing. And what I'd recommend is that after the show's over, the first thing you do is go out and Google "Universe from Nothing" by Lawrence Krauss. It's a lecture, a talk he gave at the Atheist Alliance International convention from 2009. It's going to be about the best explanation of what physicists mean when they talk about nothing and something coming from nothing.
Okay.
But even setting that aside, what you're basically saying is, I can't see how this could have happened without an intelligence. And that is a definition of an argument from incredulity, argument from ignorance, that I can't understand X, or I can't think of a better explanation than X, therefore X is the most plausible and the one I'm going to accept. And that's simply not true. Intelligence needs to be demonstrated.
Okay. And
it doesn't
by
become
you
the
being
default.
intelligent, an intelligent being, by the ape being intelligent, by the fish being intelligent, by dolphins being intelligent, I mean, something to me, I don't know where did it come from. I mean, is that not a question that you ever have in your mind at all?
Is evolution a problem for you, or are you okay with evolution?
I'm okay with evolution. That's the big thing. That's why I got such a problem with all my Christian friends, because I'm okay with that, and they ready to put me out of their house. But my problem is,
but Tracy,
I think that evolution had a designer, or some kind of a design. Something said, start from here,
I see.
and
then you don't know what I'm.
But I began.
Tracy,
began something,
Tracy,
man. I don't know, dude.
Tracy,
What do you think, man?
May I?
Yes.
Yeah, Tracy, but that's the whole point of the theory of evolution.
Okay.
Is how is it that all these different forms could come into existence in all their varied types and with all their varied abilities without intelligence? That's what evolution is about.